Story 1. In a few words, please tell us why you are calling. I have an accent. Please connect me to a human. In a few words, please tell us why you are calling. Story 2. Most smart appliances. I do not want a thermostat or refrigerator that is internet capable. I do not want to download more applications or create another account. I do not want to think about whether I need to add the coffee maker to the firewall. I just want it to be simple and easy to repair. Story 3. We have an artificial intelligence tool that can... No. Your artificial intelligence tool is inadequate. It does not perform as required and does not provide the correct answer. I do not want to see your artificial intelligence generated version of what you think I want. I want your search engine to return the information I am searching for. Story 4. Touchscreens in cars can be distracting. I cannot tell what I am doing without taking my eyes off the road. Give me buttons and knobs that I can identify by touch from memory. Story 5. I have a Ring doorbell, but I never paid for the video subscription service once the free trial ended. I also live in a quiet neighborhood without much door-to-door traffic. Basically, I just have a device that sends a push notification to my phone to alert me whenever I leave the house. Story 6. Social media creates echo chambers and promotes an us versus them mentality, with anonymity allowing people to avoid responsibility for inappropriate behavior. Story 7. Many new cars do not carry spare tires anymore. They have tire repair kits. This is inconvenient. Additionally, knobs have been removed in favor of touchscreens for all controls. Story 8. Anytime the technology tries to do the thinking for me, it can be frustrating. Sometimes I want the browser window on the computer to be partially off screen, and it drives me crazy when the computer tries to auto-snap it to where it thinks I want the window to be. I have to spend 2 minutes trying to override the computer's helpfulness. It is the same with the smartphone trying to change properly spelled words to more common words that make no sense. I do not want a car that brakes for me. If I am not braking, it is because I want to hit that thing, and no inanimate object gets to tell me otherwise. Story 9. Almost everything tech-related has made things worse than they were 10 to 20 years ago in some way. I want my files on my computer, end of story. Forget OneDrive, SharePoint, and every other service that asks you to put all your personal data on their cloud server where it can be hacked and data mined. I want video games that work out of the box and don't require a server connection to play or zero-day patches. For that matter, I dislike all software that has shifted to a subscription model instead of offering an individual copy I can buy and use until I want a newer or different version. Music has the same problem. 80% of the music I have purchased in the past 10 years can be lost if the server fails with no recourse. Ownership no longer exists. I need a new car soon. Mine is 13 years old. I dread having to interact with a touchscreen to turn on the air conditioning or change the radio volume when physical buttons and knobs are infinitely superior. If any feature in that car requires a subscription to keep it active, I will walk away immediately. Permanent online connectivity and the expectation of smartphones are a violent assault on work-life balance. Establishing the boundary that my job exists only when I am actually working, except in the case of a real emergency, has left me feeling like the crazy one for believing the job should only buy 40 hours of my time per week. Every headline about a government department plugging vital safety and oversight functions into overhyped large language models is unequivocally a death sentence for a non-zero number of people. The Federal Aviation Administration wants air traffic control in the hands of Grok. Story 10. Email. It was great until the corporate world decided you could be reached 24/7 and expected to reply. If you took a vacation from work, coming back to hundreds of messages caused anxiety in the days ahead. Story 11. Autocorrect is supposed to help, but somehow turns every normal text into a cryptic puzzle or accidental insult. I have gone from, "Hey, wanna grab lunch?" to, "Hey, wanna grab lunatic?" Story 12. Smart television. I miss being able to turn the television onto the channel I left it on and just press the up and down buttons. Now it opens to a home screen with many applications and content recommendations. Overwhelmed by options. Story 13. Rechargeable batteries on an insulin pump. I can't understand what the designers of the Slim 2 were thinking. This device has died on me while I was asleep dozens of times because its battery life is poor, and it is difficult to charge. I am frustrated with waking up with high blood sugar because the device stopped working during my sleep. It was much better in the past when I could swap out a battery that would last for almost a month. Even if it did not last that long, it was quick and convenient compared to charging. However, diabetic equipment seems to follow the same pattern as other devices, where quality declines over time. Story 14. Losing real timestamps in favor of 4 hours ago is fine for Reddit. It is not at all fine when I am trying to figure out when the bug entered the system across multiple servers and systems. I already have to juggle local time versus coordinated universal time, and remember where each server is to calculate local time. The last thing I need is to calculate relative time elapsed when someone has helpfully rounded it to something. Story 15. All modern platforms are basically just slot machines. Facebook is no longer about real people but endless scroll content. Maybe the next scroll will be worthwhile. Reddit is just endless scroll content. Maybe the next scroll will be worthwhile. YouTube Shorts and TikTok are the same but more intense. That popular garden game on Roblox makes you think if you keep playing, a rare seed might appear in the store. Amazon Prime Day keeps you scrolling. I promise you might find something that isn't just garbage with a price tag. Story 16. Two-factor authentication. Yes, I know it is more secure, but number of times two-factor authentication has saved me from being hacked. 0. Number of times two-factor authentication has stopped me from accessing my own stuff because I could not connect on my phone. 7. Story 17. Artificial intelligence integration into all sorts of things. I absolutely despise Google's artificial intelligence mode and all of these platforms asking to be used. Artificial intelligence has uses, but the best uses are not the ones that make going without critical thinking or lazy inquiry even easier, much less the ones that drown out actual creative work with algorithmic slop that does not have any spark of human creativity in it. Story 18. Once upon a time, I would put food in a microwave, set a timer, and it would beep when it was done. Then I could open it just by pulling on the handle or pushing a button. Eventually, I had a microwave that would beep when it was done and a few minutes later give me a gentle reminder beep if I had not opened the door. I bought a new microwave recently. I set a timer and it beeps when it is done. Then it beeps at full volume every minute until I open the door, even if I am busy doing other things in the kitchen. But then I cannot just open the door. The microwave locks. So I have to press the special digital unlock button first before I can push the physical button that opens the door. Then, for some reason, 30 minutes later, it beeps again every time. Why? To remind me that I used it? Story 19. Laptops are saving everything to OneDrive. I want to use my laptop's hard drive for data storage. Why is this such a difficult concept? Story 20. Apps for everything with no alternative. For example, the washing machines in my condominium building can only be used with an application. This resulted in me not being able to do my laundry because someone stole my phone. Story 21. Now that you do not need a computer or a brain to access the internet anymore, it has become flooded with the most foolish people imaginable, not to mention the harmful corporations and billionaires that own it now. The absolute anti-intellectualism that permeates social media thanks to the mobile web has destroyed the entire world as I once knew it. The convenience is amazing, but it comes at the cost of poisoning the vast ocean of human knowledge with disinformation and radicalism. I am sorry if I am being too dramatic. Story 22. The speakerphone feature on smartphones seems to be becoming the norm, and it is a nuisance in public life. Story 23. QR codes to look at menus are frustrating. Maybe I am old-fashioned, but I want a physical menu where I can look at multiple items at once. I do not want to look at a tiny screen and see only one item at a time. Story 24. Most forms of artificial intelligence available to consumers, especially generative artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence more broadly has medical, industrial, and other applications that are positive. I am not referring to those. I strongly dislike having all this generative artificial intelligence content taking up space on the internet, making it harder for artists to succeed, reinforcing an already heavily consumerist view people have of art, and companies using generative artificial intelligence to cut corners and deliver worse products. Overall, it is a massive net negative. Story 25. Nanny systems in modern vehicles include full-time daytime running lights that cannot be turned off. This is frustrating because I sit in my car for a while when I park in the structure at my work. I just want to relax, hang out, or listen to a song. The lights stay on and cannot be turned off. They also alert anyone that I am in the car. I just want to be left alone. I have heard that hunters dislike this feature because they cannot sit in the dark in fields or situations where they need blackout. Story 26. Applications and software for everything. Recently, Sunday family dinner was delayed by over an hour when my dad turned on his grill and it needed a software update before it would light. Story 27. Smart televisions. I do not need your advertisements, your data collection, or your awful operating system that makes my television run obnoxiously slow and lag. Story 28. I feel like I don't even want to brainstorm about anything, no matter how silly it may be. Story 29. Smart lights and outlets. I am frugal, so I have a handful of Chinese applications collecting my data just to set up my smart devices. Later, I thought I should spend a bit more to future-proof my setup with Wemo. That is disappointing. Story 30. Glossy screens are on everything. While I understand that they provide better display colors and brighter appearances, they are difficult to use with normal light behind the user unless the brightness is turned very high. Even glare-reducing screen covers do not completely fix the issue. Story 31. AI chat for businesses. I do not want to talk to a robot. I want to speak to a real human who will help me. Story 32. To cancel a subscription, go to the cancel subscription button and wait. If there is more content to watch, exit out of the advertisement. Then, when prompted with, "Are you sure you want to cancel this subscription? We will be sorry to see you go," another advertisement may appear. Finally, you can complete the cancellation. Story 33. Read receipts. I was a teenager with horrible social anxiety when Facebook introduced them, and it quickly spiraled out of control after that. Story 34. Social media in my pocket has damaged many people's mental health. Cell phones are not bad. Social media is not inherently bad. But combined, they create a dangerous combination. An entire social order depends parasitically on the real world, taking the place of the real world in real time. It is harmful. Story 35. Please listen carefully as our menu options have changed. We are experiencing higher than normal call volumes. Story 36. I think the negatives of smartphones have outweighed the positives. I also believe this is true for everyone, not just me, whether they realize it or not. I dislike that I have to have a smartphone to properly function in today's society. I am tired of it being a crutch for boredom, but it is hard to put the device down. Story 37. Dash cameras are installed in all work vehicles nowadays. Imagine having a security camera in your office that constantly reminds you it is there. Story 38. Artificial intelligence is flooding the internet with low-quality content and replacing nearly every job that someone with my disabilities can do. Story 39. Being required to order food using your phone, either through a website or an application. Most concert venues or sports arenas around me have adopted this system. There are employees standing and waiting for orders to be submitted, doing absolutely nothing. Everyone is blocking the walkways, staring at their phones trying to order instead of waiting in orderly lines. Why am I standing here with my wallet in hand, trying to type my credit card into this frustrating website? Worst of all, it asks you to tip at the end. Story 40. Algorithmic news feeds. Forget them. I have carefully curated my Twitter newsfeed to see only content I like by marking content I am not interested in as irrelevant or blocking accounts entirely. But every few months, a product manager decides to tweak the algorithm, and suddenly I see posts by Justin Bieber in my timeline, and I have to go on another blocking spree. Story 41. All modern technology is of poor quality and harmful to everyone's well-being. The internet was a mistake. Story 42. Electronic parking brakes. It only takes a second to apply a manual parking brake, and you immediately know it is applied. An electronic parking brake takes several seconds while the motor winds it on, and you have to wait for the light on the instruments to verify that it has actually activated. You cannot perform handbrake turns with an electronic parking brake. You cannot modulate the brake force with an electronic parking brake. It is either fully on or fully off, which means you cannot use it to slow down without activating the brake lights when you see a highway patrol car. Story 43. I cannot play most of the games that I have paid for and downloaded without an internet connection anymore. It does not sound too bad, but I lose internet service a lot now with the increase of storms. It is very annoying to not even be able to play a game I own to get through the frequent outages. Story 44. My cell phone. I went from being a very calm person to someone constantly bombarded by notifications from every single application about the most trivial things. Why is a wallpaper application notifying me about a local news event? Why is my weather application trying to sell me condoms? Why is my global positioning system map application telling me about road conditions in Alaska in the middle of the night when I don't even live there? Also, my most hated thing about this device. Why is it called a cell phone when absolutely no one calls me on it? Has the whole world become afraid of face-to-face conversations, let alone one over a cell network? I have turned off all notifications except for the phone and the messages. For anyone I actually know, like a friend or family member, I always reply with "call me." It's faster and I like the sound of your voice. You would be surprised how many people get upset by this, and they are people I actually like. Story 45. Streaming television and Google Television's built-in digital video recorder. It used to be that when you turned on your television, it would show you television programs. Now I have to navigate through menus to get to the application I want, then choose which account within that application, and then pick the show I want to see. Arc. And Google's digital video recorder deletes shows? Screw you. Story 46. Expiring passwords and password requirements. I have 5 important accounts that I have to constantly update the passwords for because I cannot remember what I changed them to or which account required specific criteria. Story 47. A task that requires more than 5 inputs, such as turning on an appliance or changing the temperature in a car, is negatively impacted by switching from physical to touch controls. Similarly, tasks that require significant precision, such as gaming or operating a naval destroyer, are negatively affected by changing from physical to touch controls. The applicability of touch controls is far more limited than consumer manufacturers suggest, and it is making our lives slightly worse. Story 48. Just because I can be contacted 24/7 does not mean I am available 24/7. Please respect my need for downtime. Story 49. Most technology. We all need to spend more time outside and less time behind a screen. I long for a simpler time. Story 50. Notifications on all my electronic devices have been driving me absolutely crazy for over a decade. I really hate my phone buzzing, checking it, and finding some app one did not even install reminding me that I need to create an account to get full use of it. Story 51. Having to verify your identity by entering a code sent to a phone number you no longer own is frustrating. Do not change your phone number or email address to avoid this situation. Story 52. iPhone facial recognition to unlock. I much prefer the fingerprint scanner on my iPhone 6s Plus. It works all the time, and I do not have to always look at the screen a certain way to get it unlocked. Story 53. Social media. I deleted most of it, and for the ones I kept, I am logged in anonymously. It got to a point where people I do not even get along with started to reach out, asking for upvotes, sharing pictures, or simply coming out of the past to haunt me. Story 54. Touchscreen kiosks at fast food restaurants take longer to use than simply telling the cashier your order. They would be acceptable if they were just an alternative option, but many places require customers to use them. The worst part is seeing older people struggle with the kiosks, while employees do not offer assistance. Story 55. Messaging apps. To stay in touch with social circles, I now have to check iMessage, WhatsApp, and Facebook Messenger. I also have Microsoft Teams at work. Feeling overwhelmed. Story 56. I hear a lot of people becoming dependent on their air conditioning to the point where if it goes up 1 degree, it is hot, and if it goes down, it is cold. Story 57. Honestly, smartphones in general. I dislike having to be available at all times to people. I wish I could just disconnect completely for a day or two. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.